So after all this time, crossover event is back.
We have returned.
A lot of stuff happened. I mean, a lot of stuff happened.
COVID.
Yeah,
COVID came back.
COVID came back. The winter storm in Texas,
Yes.
which wasn't as...
Which was not a thing.
I mean, there was a day.
There was a day.
There was a day.
It's more like 3/4 of a day,
Yeah.
really.
I mean, the worst part of it all was that if you were looking for something specific at the local grocery store, it might have been hard to get.
Yes, and also we had to boil our water.
Yeah. I mean, it was like Fallout for 30 seconds. More or less. Considerably less zombies.
I appreciate all the people who were worried about us, but we were fine.
Yes. But then there was, of course, vacations.
Vacations.
There were a lot of those. I got to go to Busch Gardens and SeaWorld.
I got to go to Disney World. It was miserable.
Was it?
Yes, it was.
Mine was not. I rode like 9 roller coasters and it was amazing.
It was cold, and the idea of waiting an hour for a ride that's 5 minutes doesn't make sense.
Let me just say, I was on a roller coaster that you sit down, you sit down like that, and then I'm like, oh, this will be fine. It looks crazy, and then it goes, and you do the whole thing head first. I was terrified.
No, that sounds awesome.
Where I diapers.
Mine was one where it was actually really good because I realized I am not an amusement park person anymore. I never need to spend $400 on that again.
And if you want me to cover your amusement park, you can email me at oneofusnet@gmail.com, where I will come and cover your amusement park gladly, assuming everything's paid for.
Yes. And you get a fast pass.
I'm talking to you, people who are opening up the new Disney Star Wars hotel.
Oh, good Lord.
$5,000 a night. What are you going to do?
Might as well go to Jurassic Park at that point.
Anyways, you can tell this is going to be a bit more of a loosey-goosey episode. Yeah. We'll get back to doing the news and everything, but we've had enough stuff going on. We have enough stuff that we weren't able to talk about, that I think respectively, with both the shows that Martin and I do, that we really wanted to talk about but didn't really fit the format, or we just weren't on the review, that we were just excited to bring to your attention, which, probably were.
Sure, we've had a lot of stuff we've watched.
Yeah, a lot of stuff, man. I mean, like I said, for one thing, there was a lot of downtime. We're like, okay, what's on Netflix?
Yeah, right.
But, I think we're going to get started off here with, talking about just television shows here that really made us excited. And gosh, what in the world would we even start with? There's so many things here.
Well, it seemed like for a while there was nothing new, and then boom, everything dropped at once.
Yeah. It's like you remember how it used to be in January and February, which was more movies in the pre-streaming days, where you're like, well, nothing good will be coming out.
Right. If you saw something good, it's because it was Oscar bait that really came out the year before.
Yeah, like in December, but yeah.
But now it's been released to the general public in January.
And generally,
we've already seen
you got a lot of garbage, and if you're lucky, maybe A24 shoved out a horror film in early January or something. But now
on streaming,
I guess somebody is clued into this because they're like, let's drop a lot of great television right when nothing is happening in the theaters. And there was, in fact, a lot of good television.
There was indeed. And while I'm still a season behind on Ozark, which I need to get into, one of the big joys for me was the new Reacher miniseries or TV series, which I never had a problem with Tom Cruise playing Reacher. I know if you've read any of the Jack Reacher books, he's 6'5", like a full foot taller than Tom Cruise.
Seems like a weird hill to die on. People are like, I can't accept the Tom Cruise because he's too short to play Jack Reacher. I'm like, is it wildly relevant
as a short man myself? I was happy to see that he could transcend that because he brought everything else to the character that was there, the smarts and the no nonsense attitude. That being said, watching the new Amazon series with Alan Ritchson, who is, while he's not 6'5", 6'2", close enough, they bring that size in there, and it made me go, okay, it's not necessary, but man, does it add a lot. It really does bring the character home. And I think everybody who's been a fan of any of these books is joyous about this. And honestly, when it starts... So, because the first series, this first series, season 1, is the complete first book, The Killing Floor, with where they take it. It's a very faithful adaptation, with just a few little things they bring in that weren't from the book, but everything they add to it makes it even better. But Alan Ritchson, for the first few minutes of it, doesn't talk, and even I thought, okay, great, you got a guy, physically he fits the description, but he's just a big dumb gorilla. And once he starts to talk, you go like, no, this guy, he was either born or grown in a lab just to play Jack Reacher in this series.
He's a giant slab of beefcake. I have not
Is.
watched the show, but I've seen the stills, and I'm like, that guy, I would just, if he was like talking to his dog and he was like, sit, I'd sit. Just by, even if I knew he was talking to his dog.
There's one of the great scenes in the first episode where he sees someone who's not taking care of their dog. He goes, you haven't given this dog water. And the guy's like, yes, I have. Are you calling me a liar? And he stands up and go, yes. Which is normally not what people do. They're like, you calling me a liar? People usually back down. He goes like, yes, I am. The guy's like, okay, fair enough.
What's the matter?
But the thing is about this show, it could have gone either way, but it's really, Alan Ritchson is charming. The entire cast is. And if there's any other show I might compare it to, it'd be Justified. Now, it doesn't have that same kind of...
Timothy Olyphant-ness?
Well, but it sort of does. It's not the Timothy Olyphant-ness that's missing. It's maybe the Elmore Leonard that's not quite there.
Okay.
But it's close.
Huh.
Like, you really do enjoy watching it and fall in love with it. And there's also something about the way Alan Ritchson plays the character where I didn't notice it at first, but on second watch, because a couple of people close to me pointed out that it seems as though he plays him as if Jack Reacher is kind of on the spectrum. It's never brought up, but you can see it. Like, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it makes him for a better character. Like in the way that people talk about Sherlock Holmes being that way.
Sure.
Because that way he can have tunnel vision and focus on the information and the clues, and it's how he's able to solve things so quickly.
And you explained that's kind of why he's such an ultimate badass. Because
yes.
Here's a guy who just got, well, I'm going to do this thing, period, and just got super obsessed with it, which, like bodybuilding. Why can't I get that? Can you inject that DNA into me? Because that would be nice.
Well, it's also one of these things where like the whole show is very much a throwback. It's been compared to dad fiction. But it is like some people are going like, oh, I'm so glad there's no wokeness in it. And I hate hearing that. But it is one of those things where it's like, it's not about any of that. It is more old school, but it is where you have this hero who is all about no nonsense, no bullshit, does what has to be done, is efficient about it. He's a very masculine character without being macho or any kind of toxic masculinity to it. It's one of those things where you watch it and you're like, man, I can't wait to see what happens next. And I can't think of how more perfectly they could have brought this book to life.
That sounds awesome. You really,
Yeah.
I mean, when you said Justified and as a Timothy Olyphant thing, it's like, Martin, that's all you had to say.
I know.
That's enough. They're also, I know we said no news, but Justified got approved for a new season where he goes back to Miami. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm just such a dork for Timothy Olyphant. But,
Well, it's one of those things where I don't like when they resurrect old properties. And even seeing they were doing a Justified movie, it's like, ugh. However, after watching Reacher and seeing Timothy Olyphant in the Book of Boba Fett.
more on that later.
Yeah, right. Which made me like, oh man, I miss this guy so much. So now I'm totally excited about a new Justified movie.
I'm basically the judge from The Good Place with Timothy Olyphant. I'm just like, oh my God, I love this guy so much. I got turned on to by literally just sheer number of people on social media going, have you seen this show Yellow Jackets on Showtime? And I'm like, what is that? Is that movie where the guy manages a child soccer team? No, it is not. Although not entirely dissimilar, really.
Okay, all right.
Because it doesn't indeed involve a older female soccer team, high school girls who are become the local champions. They beat everybody in the area and they've gotten approved for nationals. And they are going to fly to nationals, and they're all kind of, the way high school people are. There's a lot of frenemy stuff going on.
Sure.
And
so much drama. That means nothing when you get older.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's some people you'll never talk to again, to be sure, but still. And they fly there, and on the way, the plane crashes in the mountains, and like half of them survive, and they're like, crap, nobody's getting back to us.
Wow, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, we have to, like alive or something. And they're like, we have to survive. They managed to find an old abandoned cabin in the woods with some stuff there. But they're trying to figure out, none of these people who are trained to survive in a situation like this are trying to figure out what to do. And all the things that go on with, like, a social group that are indeed have a lot of frenemy stuff going on is happening and building to heads, as it were. And oh my God, there's like one poor, unfortunate high school boy who's there, who, like, you can only imagine, who's like sort of like the ball boy for the team or whatever.
Oh no!
But they all use like, what a dork, whatever that guy, and now they're all like, sup. But here's the thing: the premise of the show is that happened 30 years ago.
Oh,
because it also takes place, half the show is modern day, with their, like, the survivors of this experience are all grown up, and someone is blackmailing them, as we gradually find out as it goes along. I will reveal what happened to the world on this trip. And you're like, wait a minute, what happened? You don't have to wonder that, because the show literally starts with something we never see happen in the first season. It hasn't built to that yet, where the girls hunt and kill one of the other girls, cut her open, and eat her.
Oh, wow.
So all wearing crazy cult masks and stuff. So you're like, oh, okay. So things are going to get bad at some point.
So it's 13 Reasons Why and Lost. And I know there's something with cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Good
Alive.
Lord.
Yeah.
Alive. Yeah. Wow.
There's a lot of really exciting drama happening here. And a lot of it has to do with some great performances. The older versions of these characters, most notably, you've got Melanie Linsky, who's playing the lead
So
character.
This is not Korean? Because this sounds Korean.
No, I know, right? But Melanie Linsky, who, has been in a billion good things.
Sure.
But, she got her big start in a movie by Peter Jackson with
Beautiful
Kate
Creatures.
Winslet, Heavenly Creatures.
Heavenly Creatures, yeah.
And she, main character, she wants nothing to do with any of this. On the other side, you've got these other characters who are actually receiving these notifications, and she's not, about, like, blackmailing. So you're constantly wondering who's blackmailing who, what's happening, what are people's secret things going on, and you have some really interesting, long time buried, simmering stuff coming to the surface happening here. But, if that's not enough, you like the Lost stuff, there's these insinuations towards the end that this part that we're seeing in the very, very beginning with cultiness is maybe there's something metaphysical going on.
What?
Too.
Wait, what?
Maybe there's something supernatural.
Wow.
Maybe there's a ghost thing even. Like, it's enough that they could get away with saying, no. None of that is happening. It's just these girls going crazy. But maybe, yes, it's certainly for fans who like Lost more than anything else. But
you told me about this show, and I immediately went to look it up, but I saw it was on Showtime, and I don't have Showtime.
Oh, man.
So with Showtime shows, I have to wait until they go to Netflix.
Well, it'll be there eventually, but it is well worth watching.
That sounds awesome.
It got overwhelmingly approved for a second season. It's definitely happening.
Ooh.
So, yeah. And also, I forgot, one of the main characters of the younger crowd, there's like the cool punk girl, which, if you know me at all, I'm like,
I know you love the punk girls.
Totally my type, right? I'm like, oh, the one that got away.
I
want
to catch her
ones.
right before she's about to commit suicide.
God. But I'm blanking on her last name, Sophie. She played in Book of Boba Fett, so the lead Mod Vespa girl.
The Mod Vespas. Okay. Okay. All right.
Well, what else you got, my friend?
Well, I've been tuned on to a lot of stuff, and some of it has hit with me, and some of it has not. But probably the biggest thing, and I don't know if it's too late to mention this, but Succession on HBO, which has just been one of those shows that's been around where it's like, do I want to watch a show with rich people being shitty to each other? And there's so many shows about Rupert Murdoch, and it was a movie, Bombshell and all. But, people talked about it. I finally watched it. Oh, my God, the writing on that is so amazing.
It really is.
I was, from the first episode, I was hooked by Kieran Culkin's character. And it is, sometimes I would describe this movie as the Umbrella Academy, as if they didn't have superpowers. They were all villains. It is watching a show where if you're somebody who goes like, well, I can't like this show because there's no likable characters, then don't watch Succession, because they're all unlikable. You constantly watch to see if there's somebody to root for, and there's not. But the writing is so good. It's some of the best writing that's ever been on television.
It's one of the shows, it's Seinfeld drama. You're like,
that's true.
They're all terrible.
They're terrible.
And the moment you're like, I think this person might be a little less terrible than the other people, is the moment they do something even more terrible. Like, and it's a Schadenfreude show. You're like, they're all bad. You watch it because you can't believe how based all these people really get.
Tend to not like shows where they try to make the point to the American people. They're like, you don't want to be rich, because if you're rich, you'll be one of these terrible people and you won't have fun. And I was like, you're just trying to discourage everyone from achieving a higher goal. But this show does that in a way that you're like, yeah, okay, I got it.
Even the Wolf of Wall Street made it look fun to look
right?
super rich, despite how bad things got. This, you're like, even if they're having the most crazy fun, you're always like, that looks terrible.
Yes.
I do not want to live in the world with these people.
I would not trade places with you for all the money in the world, which you clearly have, and it's not doing it for you.
Season where there's like a birthday party, and the guy's like the most elaborate, crazy, expensive birthday party of all time, and it looks like a nightmare.
And he's the character you have the most potential to want to root for. And yet he has the amazing ability to do things where you go like, nope, he's a douche.
The moment you're like, I think this is going to be the guy who finally figures it out. I think this is going to be the one who goes, man, what are we doing here, man?
Yeah.
And then they'll turn around and do something so horrible and just abysmal, and you're kind of happy about it.
Yeah, it's a show that you like. If you get into it, you thoroughly enjoy it. But you do want to see, there's a question of who's going to come out on top, and will I be happy with that?
Yeah.
But yeah.
On Netflix, I've been watching the show called Archive 81, which I love horror. You know how much I love horror.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of media that just got lost and then gets discovered again. And they're
found
like
footage.
find stuff. Not necessarily found
Sounds
footage.
like you're talking about found
se.
footage.
I know. But I'm thinking more of like, I love the stuff where they're like, this movie this person supposedly made that got lost after there was a disastrous screening and people tried to kill themselves after, that type of thing.
Okay.
Love that kind of thing. Which there are many urban myths about that.
Sure.
This is not necessarily that. It's this guy who gets hired by this very rich guy to come in and say like, there was this apartment fire where most people died in the apartment from this very old building, and we found this box of videotapes from this journalist who was there in the hotel, and we have a vested interest in fixing them and translating them. That's his whole thing, is like he fixes old media and is able to restore it. He's like, but to do this is very private and the tapes are delicate. We're going to bring you to one of our campuses, which is way out in the middle of the woods, which, red flag.
Yes.
But this beautiful building. And you're just going to sit there and everything you want is there, but no one else will be around. It'll just be you. And you can go through this. And he starts like going through these tapes.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's the name of this?
Archive 81?
Sorry. Wow.
You watched it?
Yes!
Wow, this is how much stuff we watch. You're like, it was over 2 weeks ago. I already forgot I saw it. Here we are.
The title wasn't logged in my head, but I was like, wait, I've seen this show. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Getting old ain't for wimps.
I know, right?
So as he's watching these tapes, more and more he starts discovering that like there's something really, really suspicious going on with this particular scenario of what was happening in that apartment building. Like she starts to believe there was a cult that was, not even starts to believe, like personally witnesses there's some sort of icon cult happening in this building. And as well as he's starting to watch these tapes, weird shit is starting to happening.
Yes.
It starts to happen in the place where he's doing this that gets weirder and weirder. And it never gets to the point, I think, overall where it gets Lynchian, but it comes close.
Sure.
There are points where literally he seems like he is having conversations with people back through time on these tapes. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating. It's really disturbing and upsetting at points, but not to the point where you're, where dogs are dying or something. I know how you people are. It's fine. With the dogs.
You can watch it.
It's fine. You can watch it. But it's really creepy, and it's set up where you could watch the whole first season and be like, all right, that's cool. I got a great experience from that. There is a cliffhanger, but it kind of finishes the baseline of the story. Mm-hmm. But I gotta tell you, man, I can't wait to see if they do get approved for a second season, because I will watch the hell out of it.
Yeah. I haven't finished it, but I'm midway through.
Oh man, I just love it. Over those things where there's no boo scares. There's not a single boo scare in the entire thing. But those points where something happens that's so damn creepy, you can feel the chill creep up your spine all the way to the top of your head.
Yes, it's one of those shows where it's more creepy than it is scary, but it is effectively creepy.
And it's based on a podcast, which now I guess I have to listen to.
I guess you do.
Yeah.
You know what? Something I forgot to mention that I should have even before Succession is Resident Alien.
Which I would not have watched. I mean, I love the lead actor in this, Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
But I'm not the world's biggest fan of of comedies. I'm sorry. I know, of just like the television comedies.
You like comedies.
Sci-Fi Channel comedy.
Like for me, my experience with Sci-Fi Channel is most of it is under budget and bad, and when they have something good, it gets canceled right away because they can't sustain the budget.
Yeah.
That's just my fear.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, there's been a lot of shows with more dramas, but that still, I really like this, and then it's gone because they're like, well, I guess you weren't watching it.
Yeah,
I was like, no,
I was watching it,
but
Resident Alien, I knew it was on there, but I was like, whatever.
You were raving about it, and I was like, fine, I guess I'm gonna watch it, and I couldn't stop watching.
Yeah, Dark Horse Comics. Where the comic originated, which I believe it's a British import. I happen to read because on Comixology Unlimited, they have the first volume. So I read that. I was like, this is pretty good. Well, okay, I guess I'll go ahead and check out the series. And man, have I fallen in love with it. And you and some other people have mentioned how it's a mix of Northern Exposure meets Third Rock from the Sun. And while Alan Tudyk is a phenomenal, talented actor, sometimes he can kind of, he goes a little bit overboard. But with this, I thought, this is just right.
Yeah, you can't go overboard enough with this type of role.
Yeah,
because he is literally an alien wearing a human body. Like, I thought of Vincent D'Onofrio in Men in Black.
Me too.
Where you're like, where he's not doing that thing where the skin doesn't fit right, which is still like full credit to D'Onofrio.
Yeah, nothing taken away from him.
But he's doing things like, I have no idea how to be a human being. And he gets in that situation where they're like, oh, you took the body of the local town doctor and somebody murdered the local town doctor.
Yeah, so we need you to come in.
And he's like, oh no.
but besides his comedic performance, you get into what's going on with all the characters in town, and you come to love all of that. And then there's still the story of him, he's on Earth because his people sent him here to destroy the Earth.
Yeah, he wants to murder every single human on Earth. That's his goal, and I love that. Like, as it goes along, he's like, I mean, I'd be okay if we just didn't kill these 3 people, right? It's like, I'm sure they'll be fine with that. They'll be like, we still love you. It's thanks for saving us.
Yeah, but it's the kind of thing where on paper, for me to look at it, I'd be like, I don't know if it's my thing, but to actually watch it, it's expertly done. And I can't recommend it highly enough. And I'm so glad that just my saying it was enough for you to check it out.
It's always enough, man. You like every time. I'll be watching Reacher later. Like, come on, man. This guy is like, when he says this is great, I'm probably going to watch it.
I'm a little bit more, like kind of standoffish about things. So I guess if I say...
Yeah, if it convinced you, then I'm like, well, shit, Martin likes it. Which is his way of saying, you're not as like, you don't have as high standards as I do.
You have a broader range of things you like.
It's true.
That I don't.
Yeah.
That's all it comes
I'm
down
more
to.
horror oriented than you are, for sure.
Yes.
I am obsessed with Peacemaker. It is absolutely amazing. John Cena is perfect. The Vigilante is amazing. There's something really great and valuable about the conversation that's being had in Peacemaker, because you have this very like conservative, racist dad raising this son to be like the ultimate man, but really putting him down all the time. And there's this great like I guess clashing of ideas of masculinity that John Cena just represents so perfectly and so comically and so vulnerably, all at the same time. Like to be like, oh, fuck this guy, he's such a dick, but also I want to hug him, but also this is hilarious and I want to see him get hurt. Like, it's all of these things happening at once, and only James Gunn could pull it off. It's amazing.
There's a lot happening in this show. And
so much happening.
My biggest worry was the brilliance that is the Suicide Squad. Note the in front of it, James Gunn's version. Can you pull off that type of velocity, that type of abrasiveness for an entire season of a show, which is how many episodes? 8 episodes?
Eight episodes, yeah.
And my answer ultimately at this point where we're near the end is mostly. I really like Peacemaker a lot, and I agree the casting is dead on. There's so many great things, but I mean there is a point at times I'm like, okay, come on, we get it. It's funny that he's kind of an idiot, but I'm more at this point of the show like redemptive arc.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I saw the Suicide Squad, I thought there's so much potential for stuff here that is getting sidelined because there's so many different things going on. Whereas this show, Peacemaker, takes everything I saw potential of and takes it to the furthest length. Where I was like, wow, this satisfies me in ways that I didn't know I needed.
Yeah, you didn't know you wanted to taste it.
Yes, because it is one of those things where like I've enjoyed the Disney Plus Marvel superhero shows. Mm-hmm. I've enjoyed them. But there was always something missing that I was just like, well, I'm getting so much.
Was it curse words?
It's curse words.
Was it actual boobs?
It's nudity. It's the idea that these characters, like, they have a sense of how ridiculous their world is, that sex exists.
Right.
That they have conversations about what's going on in the midst of it's going on. Right off the bat with Peacemaker, they established like, hey, we're not that. We are this. And I was like, oh, can I get more of this?
It's like DC.
Because I love that. I like that a lot. DC but I'm loving
finally finding out, like, well, we don't want to be Marvel. They've said in the beginning, we don't want to be Marvel, so what do we be? And they were trying, like, oh, we're going to be darker and grittier, but unfortunately they hired Zack Snyder.
Right.
And you're like, that's not really...
It was darker and gritty, but it was empty.
Yeah.
Just like the real world. I don't need that in my fiction.
And to me, the turnaround point, despite some really charming moments here and there with, like, for instance, Shazam, which I thought was really actually overall pretty good, I think it was the Harley Quinn animated show where they were like, okay, this is the type of edgy I think that we were more looking for, which is to say self-referential, funny, aware of its own absurdity. Mm-hmm. That's how you do an adult.
Yes.
DC seems to be finding their voice, and I'm really thrilled. And I also love that in finding their voice, they are lifting up, they're just blasting past all of these, like, you know, A and B list heroes to start calling out the C and the D list characters.
Which is how Marvel started. Iron Man, you know, despite everything he wanted to be, he was not really an A-list hero. He's more like a A-, maybe a B+ hero. A B+. Yeah. But, you know, John Favreau raised him to an A+ hero. And then they built from there. And with that formula, they're able to go like, okay, we could take our B-list heroes and our C-list heroes and even our D-list heroes and do something with them. And it's refreshing to see DC, as you say, do the same thing, but in a different way. Where they're like, yeah, we can make fun of them. We can take the piss out of them. We can talk to the absurdity of this whole situation and still give them respect. Mm-hmm. It's like at the end of it all, Peacemaker was, I mean, he was brought over from Charlton. He was like a farm league hero who was bought into DC. And you only respected Peacemaker in as much as he was the inspiration for the comedian and the Watchmen. And nobody gave a shit about Peacemaker. But suddenly here, he has purpose. And even more than that, it's like, wow, you made him a comedic, douchey character that over time in this series, you've come to love and kind of respect.
Well, and there's supposed to be a lot of you know, symbolism in the comedian and in the original Peacemaker. And I love them taking that and doing it 10 times better in this show at a time, in a mood that is in America right now that is incredibly relevant and incredibly important. And especially like me being from a southern state, like I cannot tell you how many times this just hits the nail on the head. Even insofar as like casting Cena, an ex-wrestler.
Oh, sure.
There's so much that ties into that culture of like, what is masculinity and what are we supposed to be and do and feel and express and like, what is it to be manly and do your face exercises and cry. Like, it's so
the way it does a deep dive into all of that. Well, also in how John Cena has always been kind of seen as he's in the Rock's shadow.
Right.
Like oh, we're both wrestlers, and I'll just do what he does.
I like him better now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you don't like him better, which you kind of do at this moment,
At
this particular moment, but even if you don't like him better, but this is the point where he's broken away to show like you can do that, but I can do this.
John Cena issues a statement. Joe Rogan is still wrong.
Well, and that's, it's funny because when I've really enjoyed reading the interviews with James Gunn where he talks about working with Cena and how much of Cena's influence and input has been a part of the character.
Mm-hmm.
And also the same with Freddie Stroma and the way he brings Vigilante to the screen.
Oh,
There's just all of these characters have so much personality that you can tell is kind of also is not just coming from Gunn's head, but also coming from the chemistry that they feel together and just those actors kind of being on set together and having this experience.
What's amazing is there was a totally different actor playing that character Freddie Stroma plays for 5 entirely filmed episodes.
Oh, really?
Before he was like, I cannot do this. And I would love to find out the story about what was his breaking point.
I would
where
love
he was
that
like,
too.
It was the show in his butt.
I won't do this. And they were like, well, I'm sorry, then we're going to recast, which, you'd think, how are you going to recast? It's been 5 episodes. They recast and went back and refilmed every scene, which is a lot.
Hey, man,
with this character.
They did it with Back to the Future.
Yeah, they did. Not even as much as that, though. I think they were like 20 minutes into that.
Oh, really? 20
It
minutes
blows me away that Vigilante is the cocky kid from Harry Potter. Like that just tickles me every time.
Well, it's really funny to me because I've gone through Comixology. I feel like I'm a shill, but I'm not. Through the Comixology Unlimited and start rereading the original Vigilante series, and he's nothing like this character.
I own the entire original run.
Yeah.
I was a big fan, which took me a minute because I'm like, I used to love Vigilante when I was
But
like
he's a
16.
total ripoff of the Punisher.
A total ripoff Punisher. His just outfit was so cool. But this has got a great ensemble cast.
It does.
In it, there's so many funny things.
And the
happening in
background
this.
characters are so good too. The cuckolding couple is my
yeah.
favorite. And
Oh.
if they don't show up in the finale, I'll be very sad.
But it's one of those where you can have somebody come on, but you think will be just be a cameo or a background character,
Yeah.
and they'll have a whole storyline.
There's an arc. They may come back. It may be more important than you think. And because it's an alien conspiracy show, I mean, I know we only have like 2 episodes left, but crap, anybody could come
There's
back.
only one
at this
episode
point.
left.
Only
Yeah,
one
only
episode.
Next
one.
week is the
Jeez.
finale.
Yeah, that's finale.
Holy cow! How will they end
I'm ready.
Peacemaker?
Well, also with Peacemaker's dad, White Dragon.
Augie.
Yeah.
Augie Smith.
Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick. With his character being the white power racist that he is, we live in a time where even somebody who could be a Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, they will not allow them to say racial slurs. And here they completely go for it. And it makes it so much more authentic. And it's like, wow, they're really doing this.
Yeah, won't allow them
This
to
is
say racial
refreshing.
slurs on camera. Important difference.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
are in private.
Again, like coming from a small southern town and a certain kind of culture, like this show rings true.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know people.
Yeah.
Or growing up, I knew people like that.
And ultimately,
absolutely.
it's a message to people who come from these worlds, the children of these worlds, who this is all they've ever known, of going, again, this has formed part of their personality, and them going, you don't have to be this way and you won't lose anything. In fact, if anything, your masculinity that you're so afraid of will be better and increased and more respected by listening to other people and becoming more aware of the world around you. And I think despite how abrasive and crazy and very filled with cussing this show is, there's a subtlety to that that's quite beautiful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And has anybody ever had a better sidekick than Eagly?
I love Eagly so much. I want a stuffed Eagly right now, but it has to have a switch in the back so that it hugs you.
Yes. Has to hug you on command.
James Gunn has this really great talent for anthropomorphizing any tree. Good. Got it. Raccoon.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Eagle. Got it. Like hand him some, make it human-esque and make it good and lovable. And it's just so incredibly great. And I really enjoyed it.
Well, we have to move on to the final show we're talking about, which is the Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett is in fact
Wait,
over.
Speaking of CGI creatures that
don't
warm
you mean
our
the
hearts.
Mandalorian season 3?
I was saying out loud, I was like, that Star Wars, the Book of Mumble. Because for the first, 4 episodes?
4 episodes,
it's like
it was the Book of Boba
The Book
Fett.
of Boba Fett. It's continuing on from his appearance at the end of Mandalorian season 2 with Tamora Morrison coming in and being like, hey, I'm Boba Fett now, but he's like, I'm sitting on Jabba's throne. I'm going to be the new crime lord on Tatooine. Crime lord. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't know how he expects to make any money, but whatever.
Whatever.
He's like, we can't do that. That's bad.
Well,
we can't do that.
I
What
think the show
crimes
was
are you
pitched.
benefiting?
The show was
from?
pitched that way, but that's not what he's trying to be.
Yeah.
And in when you walk into the show, you think, oh, he's going to be a new crime lord, but then you realize after his situation with the Tuscans, you're like, oh, he doesn't want to be a crime lord. He wants to be a family man.
Yeah,
that's
it's
great.
the flashbacks to what happened because we're like, how in the hell? Well, you fell.
I wish they hadn't
done
the flashbacks.
You
oh my god!
fell into the giant anus monster. What? How did you get out of
Right,
that?
the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
Well, we already had that with where we saw Darth Maul get cut in half, and then he shows up in Solo like nothing happened.
No one's necessarily dead for
and people will say like, oh, if you go watch these other things, I'm like,
I was like, he has
shouldn't
like
have
the
to do
spider.
that.
He has like the spider legs or the animatronic legs from Clone Wars.
Right. But I'm like,
Which I guess he
I
used
don't
the
know
Force
everybody
to hold
does
his
that.
I mean,
intestines in.
I'm okay
Yeah.
with that just because like you should have to watch the Clone Wars because it's good.
I'm not arguing with that.
Because it's
certainly.
amazing.
As good as it is, I feel like you shouldn't have to watch
The Clone Wars made me love Star Wars. I was pretty meh on Star Wars until the Clone
You're
Wars.
in
lot
a
of
younger
people-
generation. You grew up with the prequels, and so no one can blame you.
I don't no, I like not even the prequels, but like mostly because I stayed away from the prequels. By the time I came around to Star Wars, I was like, okay, these are understood to be trash. Cool. Didn't like that. But, these original are understood to be good, and they are good, and they're enjoyable, but I guess I didn't really get what all the hype was about until I started watching Clone Wars, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I'm just like sitting here shoveling popcorn into my mouth and can't turn off this cartoon.
That was, I remember people going, I know, the prequels are terrible. I get why you have no interest in Star Wars, but seriously watch the Clone Wars. And I did not. I was like, no, it wasn't until like a year ago I finally started watching
I watched
it.
the Gendy Tartakovsky Clone
Which
Wars.
I did watch that.
Which were amazing.
Yeah.
So when they switched over to these newer Clone
like,
Wars, it's like,
I'm too old for this. This you kids with your CG animation. But you're right. As I finally went and rewatched it, I was like, this is actually really good. I do tend to like extended universe for mythology. And I was following the extended universe for Star Wars back pre-Disney, which now doesn't exist. But, those Timothy Zahn novels are amazing, among the old Marvel comic books, which I still want that ultimate omnibus of Marvel.
There?
Oh, yeah. $75 for every Marvel Star Wars comic book.
Wow.
I know. I was like,
I kind of stayed away from all that until Marvel, and a few years ago, started doing the Darth Vader comic book series.
Which is great.
Is amazing.
And that's canon. That's canon in that. Like, if you like Star Wars, there's always more Star Wars. People complaining, which a lot of people are, about the Book of Boba Fett. It is not across the board loved the way the Mandalorian has been.
No, not at all.
Hey, there's so much other Star Wars
Yeah.
for you to check out that is officially part of the world now. It's like, look, just relax, because ultimately, I think on this, I'm like, it was like slowly getting like less important for me every week until they're like, here's 2 episodes that are basically just The Mandalorian.
If I could recut the first season of Book of Boba Fett, I would just tell it in order. And I think that if they had told it in order, okay, cool. He's out of the Sarlacc pit. He's with the Sand People. Let's spend some time getting to know the Sand People. Let's spend
Sand
some
People
time.
is kind of a slur. Let's go with Tusken Raiders.
I apologize. I'm sorry. Tusken Raiders. I apologize.
Oh my God.
How
I had
awkward.
no idea we had a racist working here. I'm so sorry.
So him like getting in, getting close with the Tusken Raiders and sort of like finding himself in that situation and telling their story, and then that first part kind of ends when the Pikes take them out.
Sure.
And then you have the second arc, which is kind of him coming to this town and sort of figuring out what the town is about and what he wants to do and how to help the people in it, and having that back and forth. And then you've got the Mandalorian stuff. And I feel like telling the story in order would have forced them to build an actual story around
Yeah,
the tech
yeah,
teens. I don't build an actual story around the Rancor. Build an actual story. Like, I wanted to be really I love big fight scenes at the end where everybody shows up right on time and you're like, hey,
Yeah,
hey,
I know a lot of people
hey.
didn't like the last episode, but I watched it yesterday and I liked it quite
It
a
was
bit.
all right. I really wanted to be more emotionally invested in the tech teens,
I honestly
this, in
feel
that.
like the first 4 episodes, if they had been edited to be 2 episodes, they could have been condensed into 2 episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to your point, telling it in order. Because I watched so many
It just
shows
messed up it
and so
destroyed
many
the
movies
pacing.
where they mix up the timeline. I'm like, you're not Pulp Fiction. Don't do that.
Look,
Tell it in order.
If you are not Doctor Who, get out of here with that mess.
Also, I think it was a mistake labeling it the Book of Boba Fett. If it had just been The Mandalorian season
the chapter
3,
of Boba Fett.
yeah, I mean, without any of that, just say The Mandalorian and say we have 2 really strong episodes of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I agree.
Everybody would go with
that
it.
could have worked that way.
And then you go into the Mandalorian, how he fits
But the
into
thing
it.
is, they're building, like, within the Star Wars TV stuff, this, like, the Mandalorian universe is completely its own thing with multiple spin-offs coming out. This is only the first.
Right.
There's, like, 2 more
Right.
coming out, maybe 3. You know, we don't know. Maybe there'll be, like, a Mods on Space Vespas spin-off at some point, probably.
I
not
mean,
at this point, but-
Baby Yoda's going to get his own show at some point.
I mean, he's got to grow up a little bit, right? Like,
he's,
it's like-
he's the breakout
But you know-
star. Because even with Book of Boba Fett, it's like, hey, it's all your show. Oh wait, people aren't digging this. All right, Baby Yoda, come on in.
I'll tell you, the problems I had though, ultimately, despite being the show eminently watchable, no question, was that look, I don't have a dog in the Boba Fett fight. I just never cared that much about Boba Fett. Yes, his armor is
Despite
cool.
the fans telling you what an awesome badass
Just
he
don't
is,
care.
you never
Don't
saw
care,
it. Yeah.
really. He's like, he's one of the great villains. I'm like, is he?
Is he?
Okay,
Yeah.
if you say so. I just don't care that much. But, you know, we got the Mandalorian is wearing even cooler version of the armor because
Yes.
it's all shined up. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't need Boba Fett anymore.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do this, I need you to really give me something. And what they got was a Boba Fett who was kind of old, tired, and sick of this shit. And I just found that boring. I kind of was hoping for a guy who had a little more edge still left in him than this.
Sure,
character.
he had a whole episode where he never appeared.
Yeah.
And in another episode where he sort of appeared,
he didn't
but
even have
never
any dialogue.
spoke.
No dialogue.
Yeah. Even when they said, like, Boba Fett, what do you think? He went, mm-hmm.
Like, you're not.
I mean, to be fair, that's pretty much all he did in the original trilogy too. Can we talk about the fact that the intro song absolutely fucking slaps?
It does. It's
Yeah,
a great intro
yeah,
song.
yeah,
It's-
yeah.
I put it on repeat. I put it on repeat the other day and just worked to that song on
But
repeat.
I like it.
It's so
You know,
good.
that's the thing about a lot of these modern
yeah.
TV shows. They have fantastic theme
Oh
songs.
yeah, absolutely. They get good people. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, it's Disney.
Can't wait
They
for
can-
a
Yeah,
Ahsoka.
there's-
I mean,
theme.
with so many shows we've talked about on this show, you go to watch and it goes like, would you like to skip the intro? And you're like, hell no, I'm not skipping the intro.
I admit I skipped the intro. I'm just like, I've seen it twice. That's enough.
I get personally
except Peacemaker.
offended.
Yeah. Peacemaker,
When
I don't.
Yeah.
Succession, I don't skip the intro.
Batman the Animated Series will never.
You never.
Never.
But you know, I
How
think
dare you?
the only other problem I had, other than the Space Vespa thing, which is like, okay. I mean,
Oh, no.
It does have the lead actress who's also one of the coolest characters in Yellow Jacket. She plays a kind of a punk cool girl in Yellow Jacket.
Right.
is the lead Space Vespa girl there, Sophie something. But I felt like the last episode was really like, this is what I used to do with my action figures when I was a kid.
It
like
was.
Boba Fett riding a Rancor.
I know.
I was like, it's cool, but at the same time, it was like, come on.
I enjoyed it for what it was.
No. I you know what? I'm surprisingly, because I got that whole episode spoiled for me because I forgot to watch it on Wednesday. And yet when I watched it yesterday, I was like, you know what? I'm actually really digging all this. And what you're saying is not wrong. It is, but this is the culmination of everything we've seen for this season up to this point, and it works fine. And I love the fact that you had a kaiju fight between the Rancor and a mecha scorpion Godzilla. But the fact that once fire was introduced, the Rancor is like, all right, I'm out of here. I'm not. Nobody say anything about fire. I'm gone.
Also, I know that, like, and this is obviously full spoilers, but I know Baby Yoda saves the day, which is weird considering the minor level of his training. But it should have been Danny Trejo coming back. I'm sorry. Like, really,
I was really surprised that Danny Trejo didn't show up in that end
you were
fight.
like just waiting for Trejo to show up, and I mean, Robert Rodriguez directed it. You're like, he's gonna have an awesome Desperado moment. He's gonna like ride in and be like,
I totally could have seen it. Maybe that would have been too Rodriguez. Even he was like, that's I can't quite.
oh,
do
is
that.
he capable of that?
This one time, but there was something in Danny Trejo's eyes in that third episode,
okay.
where I could see in his eyes that it was just a one-off.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we've got to wrap it up. This has been a very long episode for us, but I'm sorry.
Yeah,
We're
no
excited
kidding.
about so much stuff.
Yeah, you
But
won't get to see most of
If
this.
you want to see more, if you can go to oneofus.net, we will have some bonus stuff where we're going to talk about yet more stuff that we're excited about talking about other TV shows and things, including some stuff that hasn't come out yet. I'm Chris from oneofus.net, and this is Martin Thomas from Double Toasted.
And I'm Danny from Belle of Lost Souls.
What's that?
Bulls.
Yeah, Bulls. Yeah.
Bulls.
The bulls on this girl, I swear to God.
I get that all the time.